Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. We have my run completing the all types extreme mission versus Meta Cooler Core. This has probably got to be the hardest red zone mission, in my opinion, that they have dropped so far. Like honestly, fuck this guy, it's been so difficult. One thing that makes this incredibly difficult for both super and extreme type teams, regardless of which event you're doing, against Broly, a Mega Shenron, especially against Cooler Core, is the fact that neither super or extreme type teams have a go-to int unit. There is no int unit that you sit there and go, you're gonna help me beat this run. Neither super or extreme type teams have that type of unit. The int units aren't on the level of the other units that are going to be on his team. For example, Golden Frieza, Final Form Cooler, Transforming Easy A Cooler, even both of the Janembas. There are no int unit on either super extreme types that are on that level. So immediately you're at a disadvantage because the int unit is always kind of lacking behind. And then not only that, especially against Cooler Core, his final phase where he does 1.6 million damage on a super, can't remember off the top of my head how much he does on basics, but it's a lot, and it kind of doesn't matter considering the int unit is going to have type disadvantage as well. The int unit immediately is at a disadvantage, and then even more so literally because they have type disadvantage against Cooler Core. So that makes it an immediate struggle, whereas the team pretty much remains the same when you're doing the GT edition mission, the movie edition mission as well against Broly. The only thing that changes is the int type unit. Whereas against Broly, you could use Garlic Jr. for the support and you just kind of have to keep him out of harm's way. You can use Broly, who can stack for the majority of the event. Any additional supers, of course, are going to help. Also, he has all of his damage reduction. Even then, he can still take quite a bit of damage. He's okay with an item. But for the most part, he does okay. But against Cooler Core, because of how short the event is, because there's only 2 phases, and you having type disadvantage against one of the hardest hitting bosses in the game, taking Broly isn't an option. And Garlic Jr., I mean, you could take him for the support, but I mean, I'd only take him if I had dupes in him and I went full dodge and even gave him skill equips that also gave him dodge. So, I mean, there's probably people who have done it with Broly, probably people who have done it with Garlic Jr., but it is a struggle, especially if you do not have dupes in those units where you can give them dodge, or you have to get super lucky where they just take next to no attacks whatsoever throughout the entirety of the run, especially in phase 2 where they're going to have type disadvantage. So that leaves you with 1 unit to take, and that's if you have them. And that is Jace from Spice Australia and Beta. Now the reason you want to take these 2 is because they have built-in dodge in their passive. They're an int unit, so naturally they have 5 dodge even if you have no dupes in them for free. And I went through the extreme lengths just to make sure their dodge was a lot more consistent and they could dodge a lot more attacks separately. And I gave them dodge skill equips. Skill equips. Just to make sure the dodge was a lot more consistent, and it ended up paying off. Don't get me wrong, there was a few runs where they don't decide to dodge and you take way too much damage on a basic, or they get supered and you pretty much have no chance. If they don't dodge and they get supered against Cooler Core, you're done. That's it. Even with an item, you are done. Unless, of course, you double Whis, which you don't really want to do unless you're confirmed to get the win. So yeah, I'm not going to lie, if you're struggling and you have them too, and you have no dupes in them, I would definitely give them skill orbs that give them dodge to make the dodge a lot more consistent. It ends up paying off in the long run just to make sure you don't die. Other than that, the exact same team you've used for the all extreme types, if you have gone down the LR Final Form Cooler route, the team pretty much remains the same. You bring LR Final Form Cooler for the lead and all the damage he's going to be doing, especially because he's going to have type advantage in the second phase. So any dupes you want may have, big help because you mainly want to be critting, and any extra additionals, why they're not needed, obviously definitely a lot more helpful as well, especially with building up his passive a lot quicker, have him ready for the final phase, but just generally for the crits to do more damage, especially while he has type advantage. Whether yours has dupes in or not, but more so if yours doesn't have dupes, you definitely want an LR Final Form Cooler friend to have dupes as well, again for the crits. The additionals are nice, but more so for the crits. AGL unit, you want Golden Frieza because of the damage reduction. You also want to bring Tech Janemba, again for the guard, give him enough orbs or the right orbs. He gets damage reduction and support, which also helps Final Form Caller do even more damage to help you get in and out the event quickly. Then you have, for the Fizz unit, if you have him, definitely bring LR Fizz Janemba. However, even though he has type advantage in the first phase, which is great because your main goal in the first phase is to survive, you want to take that advantage or that time and the advantage of having literal type advantage to put him in slot 2 to build up his passive. And you probably want to build it up ideally all 3 times, but if you can't and you run out of time, or you don't have dupes, or you're not lucky enough to get an additional, you mainly want to get his passive built up twice before you go into the final phase, or as you go into the final phase, maybe while using an item, just to give him that extra damage reduction, like kind of padding, that kind of help. The reason why you want to do this is because I tested this and a few times it caught me off guard. If you go into the final phase against Cooler Core without any of Fizz LR Janemba's passive built up, like none whatsoever, like it's only 3 times, but none whatsoever, he will take 100k on a basic, which of course is going to make your run a lot more difficult, especially because that guy is going to be sitting in slot 1. And typically, I mean, you're literally seeing it right now with Golden Freezer, typically in Red Zone, there are a plethora of attacks coming in slot 1, and whether they're super attacks or not in this scenario, taking 100k from that many basics, as I said, is going to make the run a struggle, or you're just going to die there and then. So you want to build up his passive while you have the type advantage in phase 1 as much as possible. Again, ideally you want all 3, but 2 should be good enough, especially because you'll have Whis going into the second phase, because you want to save as many of those as possible. You want to at least build him up twice before you get to the second phase, because that way he'll tank a hell of a lot better rather than taking 100k on basics, especially if yours is at 55%. And then of course the other unit you want to be taking is EZA Transforming Cooler, just because you'll have the support, he'll be stacking the entire time, he'll have type advantage against Cooler Core as well, so he'll have type advantage with like 500-600k defense while doing some very good damage along the way as well. Any dupes are going to help you for some crits, extra additional, stack his defense up quicker. With a Whis, he's going to be completely fine. The same can be said for Final Form Cooler. Not to mention, when you're going to go for the kill shot, you can transform him into Final Form Cooler. Yes, he won't have guaranteed crit, but any extra Rainbow Keys Fizz, of course, he has increased crit chance. Not to mention, again, if you have dupes, he has the 2 built-in additionals in his passive anyway. Any additionals from the dupe system, crits from the dupe system as well, and just essentially help him do a little bit of extra damage, but only do that when you're going for the kill shot to make sure you are going to win. Like I said, the only unit that changes on this team is the int unit, and as I said, that's Jason Berta. That way you take advantage of the dodge, which even then, it might not come off for you, and it may take you a couple attempts because you do need to get lucky, because they essentially need to either take no attacks in slot 3 or very minimal attacks in slot 3. And if that minimal attack, if that one attack ends up being a super, you have to pray to Jesus, to the Dokkan gods, whoever you choose. You have to pray that they dodge that super, otherwise they are dead. Even with a Whis, they will die. Unless you decide to double Whis, which is a little bit of a risk, unless you're guaranteed to win, you are dead. So you hope they take minimal attacks in slot 3, and when they are taking minimal attacks, you want them to dodge. That's why I went to the extreme lengths of giving them skill equips. Other than that, once again, it's LR Final Form Cooler, just doing ridiculous amounts of damage against the Cooler Core while having type advantage. And any crits are of course welcome. You have the active skill, which will do major damage, and also you've got the disable enemy action, which you can take advantage of as well, which I saved when I needed it. I even finished it off with one of the active skills. It's pretty much just the same strat again, but you want Jason Berta for the dodge and the support. But I finally managed to beat it. Honestly, just fuck Cooler Core, man. He made this mission so difficult, but it just shows we need better units to handle Red Zone. Because for both Super and Extreme, they're not on the same level. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next video, guys, and peace!